morning, good morning. How's everybody doing? Good morning. Oh, 5:44 a.m. Rach, that's so early. Okay, well, I'll sit here and wait for some folks to come in, I guess. Pull y'all in a little bit closer. If you're coming in after this is live, just fast forward through all of this. Oh, I'm ready for spring, guys. Oh. I'm tired of the cold. Also, did y'all see Amber's video that she posted yesterday with Willow in the snow? She's so cute. I miss her so much. Hey, the lamb. How's it going? Hey, I had seen a comment that you left on... I don't know. You had left. Talking about a stalker or something? I wouldn't mind if you sent information through an email. But good morning. Man. I'm still tired. It's hard to want to get out of bed when it's cold. Hey, Jen, you're back. Good morning. I stayed in bed too late this morning. Hey, Janice. Yeah, y'all see, Rach saw it. Did y'all see since more people are coming in, did y'all see the video Amber posted yesterday of Willow in the snow? Oh my gosh. She is so adorable. Matt, hey, good morning. I was wondering if you'd been getting notifications. I know that YouTube is weird sometimes like that. And since I hadn't done this in a little while, it, kind of got kicked out of the algorithm and stuff. So I'm glad to see you're here. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on your description of this study. Yeah. So I actually scheduled it days ago. So y'all are like, I like the title of today's message, and I'm gonna admit I don't even remember what it is right now. I know that sounds terrible, but I had sat down and scheduled out all of these in an attempt to be more consistent because, it takes a little while to get that stuff done. And has she left yet? I worry about her driving. Stress sucks. Yeah, no. Far as I know, she hasn't left yet. So I talked to her yesterday. I think they're stuck. I think that they are, they have to wait till the roads and stuff are clear. I know. Willow's so adorable. Did y'all see her one, random tooth that's over here that she has now? I am glad to be back. I agree, Anne. I was like, oh, smiling the whole time. It made my day. I miss Sweet Willow. I miss Amber, too. Yeah, I forget what was... My brain isn't working yet. Coffee's on the stove. Like I said, it's hard to get out of bed when it's cold. And I stayed in bed too long. And you know how, you should get up and then you kind of doze back off. And then it's extra hard because, your body wants to go back to sleep. Oh, Matt says, sometimes I have to go to work early. Oh, okay, well, I understand that. So, Paul sails for Rome. Okay, yeah. Yep, I remember this now. I still don't remember what I made the title of this video to be. But, anywho, so yeah. We've got 9 people. I think we should go ahead and get started. Haven't had coffee yet. It's not a long chapter. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. If you're new here, I'm reading from the New International Version Life Application Study Bible. So I read the actual word, and then I pause and I read the commentary, and I go back and forth like that. Just in case you're new here and need a little more context on how this is working. So, Paul sails for Rome. When it was decided that we would sail for Italy, Paul and some other prisoners were handed over to a centurion named Julius, who belonged to the imperial regiment. We boarded a ship from, oh my gosh, Adramyttium, I don't know, about to sail for ports along the coast of the province of Asia, and we put out to sea. Aristarchus, a Macedonian from Thessalonica, was with us. The next day we landed at Sidon, and Julius, in kindness to Paul, allowed him to go to his friends so they might provide for his needs. From there we put out to sea again and passed to the lee of Cyprus because the winds were against us. When we had sailed across the open sea off the coast of Cilicia and Pamphylia, we landed at Myra in Lycia. There, the centurion found an Alexandrian ship sailing for Italy and put us on board. We made slow headway for many days and had difficulty arriving off Snidus. I don't know. When the wind did not allow us to hold our course, we sailed to the lee of Crete, opposite Salmone. We moved along the coast with difficulty and came to a place called Fair Havens, near the town of Lasea. Much time had been lost, and sailing had already become dangerous because by now it was after the Day of Atonement. So Paul warned them, "Men, I can see that our voyage is going to be disastrous and bring great loss to ship and cargo, and to our own lives also." But the centurion, instead of listening to what Paul said, followed the advice of the pilot and of the owner of the ship. Since the harbor was unsuitable to winter in, the majority decided that we should sail on, hoping to reach Phoenix and winter there. This was a harbor in Crete, facing both southwest and northwest. The storm. Okay. Oh, let's pause there. That was, sorry, 20. Acts chapter 27, 1 through 12. So now I'm going to read the commentary at the bottom to go with that. Julius, a Roman centurion, was assigned to guard Paul. Obviously, he had to remain close to Paul at all times. Through his contact, Julius developed a respect for Paul. He gave Paul a certain amount of freedom and later spared his life. How would your character look up close and personal? Use of the pronoun we indicates that Luke accompanied Paul on this journey. Aristarchus was the man who had been dragged into the theater at the beginning of the riot in Ephesus. Greek ships in ancient times had no compass, so the most reliable way to navigate was by using the stars. Overcast weather made sailing almost impossible and very dangerous. Sailing was doubtful in September and impossible by November. This event occurred in October. Although this was not the best time to sail, the ship's pilot and the owner didn't want to spend the winter in Lasea or Fair Havens, so the centurion took a chance. They disregarded Paul's insights because they didn't know him and they didn't know God. At first, the winds and weather were favorable, but when the deadly storm arose, but then the deadly storm arose. Now we're going to Acts chapter 27, verse 13 through 26. Yeah, hey Patricia, good morning. Yeah, hit that like button, guys. Hey Cindy. Thanks for being here, y'all. Um, okay, the storm. When a gentle south wind began to blow, they saw their opportunity, so they weighed anchor and sailed along the shore of Crete. Before very long, a wind of hurricane force, called the nor'easter, swept down from the island. The ship was caught by the storm and could not head into the wind. So we gave way to it and were driven along. As we passed to the sea or to the lee of the small island called Cauda, we were hardly able to make the lifeboat secure. So the men hoisted it aboard. Then they passed ropes under the ship itself to hold it together. Because they were afraid they would run around on the sandbars of Cyprus, they lowered the sea anchor and let the ship be driven along. We took such a violent battering from the storm that the next day they began to throw the cargo overboard. On the third day, they threw the ship's tackle overboard and with their own hands. When neither sun nor stars appeared for many days and the storm continued raging, we finally gave up all hope of being saved. Here's a map. I'm just going to hold this here for a second so you guys can kind of see the journey that they took, and you can see how kind of wonky it is. And instead of, I imagine that if it had been a different time of year, they probably could have just taken a straight shot, right? But they had to go along the shores because it was, because of the winds and stuff. And the Mediterranean Sea, I'm trying to think. I think it was the Sea of Galilee that was like down in kind of a bowl, and it said that there would be like crazy winds and stuff. But maybe I don't know a lot about the Mediterranean Sea. But I'm gonna read this little thing here next to the map for a second. The trip towards Rome. Paul began his 2,000 mile trip, to Rome at Caesarea. To avoid the open seas, the ship followed the coastline. At Myra, Paul was put on a vessel bound for Italy. It arrived with difficulty at Cnidus and then went to Crete, landing at the port of Fair Havens. The next stop was Phoenix, but the ship was blown south around the island of Cauda and then drifted for 2 weeks until it was shipwrecked on the island of Malta. Oh my gosh. So they're on this little tiny island over here. Here's Rome. And there's Malta, and they had to go all over this way. And then they shipwrecked here. So, all right. Let's keep going. Acts 27, verse 21. After they had gone a long time without food, Paul stood up before them and said, "Men, you should have taken my advice not to sail from Crete. Then you would have spared yourselves this damage and loss. But now I urge you to keep up your courage, because not one of you will be lost. Only the ship will be destroyed. Last night, an angel of the God of whom I belong and whom I serve stood beside me and said, 'Do not be afraid, Paul. You must stand trial before Caesar, and God has graciously given you the lives of all who sail with you. So keep up your courage, men, for I have faith in God that it will happen just as he told me. Nevertheless, we must run around on some island.'" I'm going to read the bottom section now. The measures the sailors took to survive included binding ropes under the ship to hold it together. Cyprus was on the northern coast of Africa. Why would Paul talk to the crew this way? Paul was not taunting them with an "I told you so," but was reminding them that with God's guidance, he had predicted this very problem. In the future, they listened to him, and their lives were spared because of it. The Aramaic or the Adriatic Sea refers to the central part of the Mediterranean Sea between Italy, Crete, and the northern coast of Africa. Oh, I haven't gotten that far yet. The shipwreck. Acts chapter 27, verse 27. On the 14th night, we were still being driven across the Adriatic Sea when, about midnight, the sailors sensed that they were approaching land. They took soundings and found that the water was 120 feet deep. A short time later, they took soundings again and found it was 90 feet deep. Fearing that we would be dashed against the rocks, they dropped 4 anchors from the stern and prayed for daylight. In an attempt to escape from the ship, the sailors left the lifeboat down into the sea. Let the lifeboat down into the sea, pretending they were going to lower some anchors from the bow. Then Paul said to the centurion and the soldiers, "Unless these men stay with the ship, you cannot be saved." So the soldiers cut the ropes and held the lifeboat, and let it drift away. Just before dawn, Paul urged them all to eat. For the last 14 days, he said, you have been in constant suspense and have gone without food. You haven't eaten anything. Now I urge you to take some food. You need it to survive. Not one of you will lose a single hair from his head. After he said this, he took some bread and gave thanks to God in front of all of them. Then he broke it and began to eat. They were all encouraged and ate some food themselves. Although there were 276 of us on board, when they had eaten as much as they wanted, they lightened the ship by throwing the grain into the sea. When daylight came, they did not recognize the land, but they saw a bay with a sandy beach, where they decided to run the ship aground if they could. Cutting loose the anchors, they left them in the sea and at the same time untied the ropes that held the rudders. Then they hoisted the foresail to the wind and made for the beach. But the ship struck a sandbar and ran aground. The bow stuck fast and would not move, and the stern was broken to pieces by the pounding of the surf. The soldiers planned to kill the prisoners to prevent any of them from swimming away and escaping. But the centurion wanted to spare Paul's life and kept them from carrying out their plan. He ordered those who could swim to jump overboard first and get to land. The rest were to get there on planks or on other pieces of the ship. If this was everyone, or in this way, everyone reached land safely. A sounding was made by throwing a weighted line into the water. These weighted lines had marks on them so that when the weight hit the bottom, the sailors could tell the depth of the water from the marks on the line. In the middle of a midnight squall, the passengers and crew did all they could possibly do. They dropped some anchors to try to stop the runaway ship. Then they prayed. Of course, Paul, Luke, and Aristarchus were praying to the true God, the only one who could do anything about their situation. This is a good reminder for us. We must never rely solely on our own wisdom or skills, but it is equally wrong to sit and do nothing when there are still actions we can take to overcome certain problems. Do all that you can do to fix the problem, then trust God to do his part. The soldiers would pay with their own lives if any of their prisoners escaped. Their instinctive reaction was to kill the prisoners so they wouldn't get away. Julius, the centurion, was impressed with Paul and wanted to save his life. Julius was the highest ranking official. Therefore, he could make this decision. God used Julius to spare Paul for his later ministry in Rome and fulfilled Paul's prediction that all the people on the ship would be saved. So, think of that in terms of, that was an actual storm. So, I know that, speaking from my own personal life, I've been through storms, not like that. I've never been on a ship, a runaway ship in the middle of the ocean I've never been through that, but I've been through times in my life, and I'm sure that you guys have too, and can relate that it can be really scary when you're out there and you feel like everything's totally outside of your control. All you're doing is just really the only thing you can do is pray, because you've tried everything. They tried everything. They tried throwing things aboard, they tried dropping anchor, they tried, like, I don't know what it's called, but like closing the sails or whatever so that they didn't catch wind. Um, they tried everything that they could, and they didn't eat for 2 weeks. That is bonkers. That is crazy. Can you imagine, like, how cranky everybody was and how hungry and stressed out? Like, you add hunger, and they're going to be, they're not going to be themselves. And all the while, Paul knows it's his mission to go preach in Rome. And um, it's something that, God had told him, you witness for me here in Jerusalem. Now you're going to have to witness for me in Rome. And he was kept in prison for several years, at least 2 years. That's what we learned in the last couple of chapters. He was in prison in Caesarea for at least 2 years. And then the new guy took over. I don't remember what his position is, but he took over. New governor or whatever, he took over and decided to resume Paul's trial. Well, then, they ended up sending him to Rome on the ship, and it's a crazy ride. And even though it wasn't the best time of year, they decided to go anyway. And so when we feel like life is out of control or things are out of our control, it's important to pause and pray about it. And don't let those, when God gives you a job to do, nothing can stop that. Nothing can stop that. It makes me think of the story of Jonah, right? So Jonah was being called by God to go preach. I can't remember where, but Nineveh, right? But Nineveh was a really, really wicked city. And he was like, I really don't want to go talk to those guys. Like, they're mean, they do all these bad things, and I don't, whatever. He just didn't want to go because maybe he thought it was going to be hard. Maybe he thought it was going to be impossible. Maybe, I don't know what his expectations are exactly. But anyway, God put him on the right track, even though he didn't want to go. He had, he got swallowed up by a big fish. He refused. God was like, hey, I need you to go over here. And he was like, nope. And he wanted to go. He did not want to go there. And he got swallowed up by a big fish and basically delivered to Nineveh. And then when he preached there, a lot of people were saved and blah, blah, blah. And the church grew and all that stuff. So when you feel like you're going through a rough time, just keep praying. Don't let, the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And the easiest way for him to do that is to attack your mind and make your mind feel like everything is wrong. Everything is out of control. There's nothing you can do about it. You might as well just cowtail and run. And that's not God's mission for us. So I don't know what else to say about that, but so what do y'all got to say about it? I'm sitting here watching the wood stove, and I'm like, I wish it would like get hot already. I see little flames in there, but I want to feel the warmth off the wood stove. Can you imagine how those other people felt. It says that if they left the ship, then they wouldn't be saved. And meanwhile, in life, like when things are going wrong, sometimes we just want to escape, right? And we're like, oh, we got to get out of this situation. And Paul was like, no, if you don't ride it through this situation, then you're not going to live. And I wonder how many of those people, it said there was 276 of them. I wonder how many of them were saved by the end of that journey. I wonder. Because that's what Paul did, right? He talked to people, he saved people, he led people to Jesus Christ. And I know that that's a really short chapter, considering that journey was at least 2 weeks. I mean, it's a 2,000-mile journey. So it had to have taken some time. And I wonder, if anybody had listened to Paul or listened to him preach, or, had witnessed him praying and wondered, I don't know. I don't know. Mm. Hey, Patricia. It's exactly how I feel. Jen, yeah. Uh, I mean, your situation is tough. And I pray for you all the time that it'll get better and that you will fully recover. Just remember that God's in control and that He will, how's that saying go, that He will use everything for the good of those who love Him. So somehow He will use this to help you help someone in the future. I struggle with feeling like I couldn't do enough because of my health before. Now, with the stroke and bleed, I need help with showering, walking. It's hard to find purpose, and I don't understand it. I just unloaded my dishwasher the first time I have been able to do that in 3 weeks. My husband has been so good to me. Jen, okay, I just got goosebumps. I feel like I want to pick my words wisely here. But, I feel like sometimes we go through things that make us realize how good we've got it, So even when life comes together, even when life feels like everything's great, and we're kind of in a waiting period where nothing's really happening, nothing really super good or super bad is happening, we tend to get complacent, and our pastor actually talked about this on Sunday, and he was talking about how we get comfortable and we get complacent and we kind of get lazy, and we kind of forget. And I know I've done too, where life's going good and you just kind of lose sight of the small things that you should be thankful for, And while it was hard for you to go through this and you felt like it was hard before, now I think that I would imagine that this moment is probably helping you realize how good you had it. Even though it wasn't ideal, it was still better than what you're dealing with now. And I think that I think those situations humble us and bring us back to the basics. And every single hardship, no matter what hardship it is, it's used to bring you closer to Him. And so, yeah, it just, it's gonna, this situation is going to strengthen your relationship with God, because as you're going through this struggle, you're talking to Him more. I know that you and I have talked privately, and that, we've kind of talked about stuff along these lines. Um, but I feel like when you recover from this, it's going to be so much better. Just a little win, when the first time you're able to unload the dishwasher in 3 weeks, that's something you should celebrate, something that I want to do, guys. I thought about it and I haven't done it yet because I'm a procrastinator. um I want to start something called a blessing board, because sometimes when you're in a struggle, it's hard to recognize all of the blessings around you, all the little things, all of the things that are day to day that don't necessarily feel like a blessing. It's not like the blessing, it's not like what it feels like when you get a big, like, visible blessing or something, right? But a blessing board, I want to get a whiteboard, like, and some markers, and put it on my refrigerator. And every time I think of something that I'm blessed with, so that could be as simple as, you know, someone called me today because they were thinking of me. That's a blessing. Thinking of, the weather was good today. And there's been times in my life where I've been through extreme hardship. And, as a letter carrier for the post office, I started finding the silver lining in everything. It was a hard job. Like, you guys don't know how hard it is to be a letter carrier, be out there in the elements and with all that heavy stuff, and then the pressures of management, and it's not an easy job at all. It's very physical, very um it takes your whole brain all day long. It's difficult. And on days when it was, I think I've told you guys a story before, but I was still fairly new and I was working in a town that I wasn't familiar with, and it was really hard. And it started raining, and I didn't have any rain gear. I didn't have anything to keep me dry. I didn't have an umbrella with me, and even if I had an umbrella, you can't carry an umbrella and carry the mail at the same time. You don't have enough arms for that. So I was walking around and I was like, rah, 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 this sucks. I can't believe blah, 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 and I was just making my day miserable. I was making my day miserable. There was absolutely nothing I do about the rain or it being cold. There was absolutely nothing. No amount of complaining or whining or anything was going to make it stop raining. So finally, I got tired of being a grump, right? And about halfway through the day, I decided, you know what, I'm soaking wet anyway. So I'm going to make the best of it. And I literally, instead of walking on the sidewalk, I'd walk in the ditch where there was, ankle deep water. And I was kicking the water and having a good old time splashing around in it like a little kid as I was walking. And that changed my entire day. Then I was just like, okay, whatever, I'm just going to make the most of it. And I did. And it literally changed my day. And I believe that if we do that day to day, we can change our lives that way. And so after that, I developed the saying, when life gives you rain, play in the puddles. Kind of like when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, right? Or like Ron White said, when life gives you lemons, find someone who life gave them vodka and have a good time or something. But anyway, so I want to do a blessing board. I want to put it on my fridge. And there was times where when the weather was bad, when it was raining, I'm like, well, at least it's not 115 degrees out here. And when it was 115 degrees, I could be like, well, at least it's not cold and wet. At least I'm not sliding on the ice and the snow. And just those simple things, like, you can be thankful when you can't find things to be thankful for. um, you can always find things to be thankful that it's not. You know what I mean? I don't know how to exactly say that, but I want to do a blessing board, and I encourage you guys to do something like it too. Put it somewhere where you can see it. Put it somewhere where you're going to see it all the time. And every time something comes into your brain of, this is a blessing or this is something positive, write it down on that. And then before you know it, it'll be full. And you'll have to erase it to make room for more. And that's where I want to be. I want to be where I am so grateful for the little tiny things that, that God has given me. And I think that having something visual like that would be a huge reminder when you're going through something rough, that, it's sometimes it's hard to count your blessings when you're going through something, because it's really hard to see them because you're so focused on your own, you're focused on the storm. You're not focused on what God's doing for you in that storm. You're just kind of like when Peter was on the water, he stepped out of the boat, and he was walking on water until he started paying attention to the storm around him, and then he began to sink. And I think that that's a good analogy for daily life, is keep your eyes on Jesus, and don't be distracted by the storms around you. Be thankful for every single itty bitty little blessing, because I guarantee that once you start doing that, you will find all kinds of things that you didn't even realize were blessings. And yeah, I don't know what else I was gonna say about that, but sometimes we want more than God will do. He is aware of your condition. Amen. Yes. My legs are shaky from just that, and I am headed back to bed. I tried crochet, can't seem to remember how. I ordered a book about happiness through stroke. It comes today. Well, Jen, I hope that helps you. Yes, I'd give anything to get back to where I was. See, and when you were in that point of your life, and you were kind of focusing on all of the hardships, right? You were focusing on your health and everything being hard, and I feel like I'm kind of there now, because my back hurts a lot and it's hard to bend over and do things, and sometimes we focus more on the now and the hardship of the now, when we can, at least, if you can't find anything else, at least be grateful that it's not worse, right? Yeah, small steps at a time. That book is supposed to help me see the positive, and I do. I could be so much worse off. I'm lucky I'm still here at all. Yes. Hey, Gina, good morning. Stress can influence the blood vessels, so practice relaxing. I feel like that's easier said than done. That's right. Your attitude becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? I'm grateful for my struggles. Amen. Amen, Jody. Blessing to just be alive, right? Jen said, I see God working on this, and maybe this was one of his weird ways of bringing you back to him and bringing you closer. I always say going through bad times lets us know when it is good, right? I felt like my husband was on my butt constantly and didn't understand my daily struggle. Now he gets it. Maybe that's part of the purpose of all of this too, Jen, is to kind of bring you guys back to each other and help you understand each other better. Later, or something good and bad simultaneously, right? The Bible prophecies are taking place right now. He is coming to take his bride home anytime. Be ready. Amen, amen. There's a song I absolutely love, Counting My Blessings by Seth Schluter. I am not sure, but not sure spelling. It's a helpful, grateful song. Oh, I think I've heard that before. Homesteading Dreamers of Five, good morning. Wake up every morning thanking God for a new day. It starts my day off on a positive note, right? Amen, amen. So, um, yeah, so count your blessings. And you know, our pastor was talking about lamps need to be full. Amen. Yes. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on in the world, and I can't help but worry about it. Last night he came to get me out of the tub. I said I just wanted to go to bed and hadn't washed. That man dropped to his knees and washed me and washed my hair. Oh, Jen, you got a good man. Um, don't take advantage of that. Be thankful for that. And I know I don't mean like mean it in a mean way to say don't take advantage, but just appreciate him and let him know how much you appreciate him, even if it's just with your words, because one of the five love languages is words of affirmation, and that's like saying thank you, I appreciate you, you know, I love it when you do this for me, or you know, and that is so awesome. Yeah. That is good. And you know, and I'm sure it's a lot of weight on him to have to pick up all that extra stuff, but I'm sure that your gratitude and your thankfulness of him probably gives him a new sense of purpose, you know? It's hard to not worry. I think that it is a big struggle for me and mine, right? Mhm. Yeah. Anyway, our pastor was talking about the importance of fasting. Have had 4 strokes, 2 knee replacements, and reconstruction on 1 foot. I started a new job about 6 weeks ago. Sometimes I walk like I'm drunk, but that's okay. Cindy, that's amazing. And I'm sure that you can look back at the times when you were recovering for those things, and one of those things you can be thankful for is, Lord, I may look like a drunkard when I'm walking, but at least I'm on my 2 feet walking, you know? All right, bye, Janice. See you later. So, anyway, our pastor was talking about fasting, and you don't have to fast from food. You can fast from, you know, you can pick something that takes up your time and fast from that. So, social media, or you know, it could be sugar, it could be meat, it could be everybody has, you know, people have dietary restrictions that mean that some people can't fast from food, but fast from something that takes your time and then use that time to spend with God. And I don't have any personal experience with fasting. I've been sitting here thinking that trying to figure out what I could fast from, and I haven't figured it out yet. So, anyway, y'all, pray for me there. I'm thankful for you and your fam and you doing this Bible study. Stacy, good morning. I am thankful for y'all coming and hanging out with me because it wouldn't really be worth doing if y'all didn't chime in and you know, I feel like we're all kind of growing together. Y'all leave comments and that are encouraging or that help deepen my understanding of God and the Bible and all of that, and I really, really appreciate it. So I'm definitely thankful for that. It sounds like my coffee is finally boiling over there, so I'm going to get off here, guys, and I hope y'all have a wonderfully blessed day. Oh, that's awesome. Hey, Starlene, good morning. I need to go counting my blessings. I think I've heard that song. I am the worst about, you know, I've never really been into pop culture and stuff, probably from growing up off grid. Check out what autophagy is. I've done it. Huh. I'll have to go back and look at your comment later so I don't have anything to write that down. I forgot what I was saying. Anyway, I can say be thankful you're at home and not in a facility every day. Try to do something you couldn't do yesterday. Right. Right. Yep. Amen. Well, I love you guys. Hey, Ann, how's it going? So, I love y'all. And I will see y'all again tomorrow for the final chapter in the book of Acts. So, I love y'all. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.